The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm so delighted to introduce to you our guest for the show today, Dr. Kevin Walthers, President of Allan Hancock College. He's been president since 2013, making him the 5th college president in almost nearly a 100-year history of Allan Hancock College. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, and so excited to talk about your background and many of the accolades that have occurred at Allan Hancock College since your tenure and leadership, and really want to talk also about the Hancock Promise. But before we do, let's roll back a little bit in time and talk about your childhood and where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about where you were born and raised.
I was kind of raised all over. I was born in Dallas, Texas. I think of myself as being from a little part of Dallas called Pleasant Grove. It's in southeast Dallas. It was a blue-collar neighborhood, one of the first suburban neighborhoods, but my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. So we would go from base to base, and then we'd come back, hang out with my grandma, live at her house, and they converted a garage into an apartment, and we would live there.
And that was in Texas?
In Texas, yeah, in southeast Dallas there. And so, just a really kind of blue-collar upbringing that was good for us. And I got to see a lot of the world. I lived in Maine and Minnesota and England. Lived in Washington State for a while, and then in 6th grade we moved back to Austin, at the Air Force Base there. That's now an airport. The base is gone.
Is that right?
And then ended up going to the University of Texas after graduating from high school. We moved back to the Dallas area and went to the University of Texas, and with the idea of becoming a high school teacher.
Fantastic. Let me talk a little bit about that Air Force family life that you had. It sounds like it's really enriching, an experience that not everybody has, lots of movement, but also going back to Texas. Are there any major life lessons that you learned from being in an Air Force family?
I think the biggest thing at that time was the 70s, and in the 70s was the height of the desegregation movement. And so I was generally going to school on Air Force Base school. So our classes were very diverse. And when I would come home, and I went part of 3rd grade, part of 4th grade, 6th grade in a regular public school in Dallas where the desegregation movement was going. There's a lot of tension in those schools, and I really didn't know why. You're 11, 12 years old. You don't know why, but you kind of feel a different kind of tension in those schools than in the Air Force schools. So looking back on that later when I was working my dissertation and realizing what that was about was really kind of eye-opening, that I had this really unique opportunity in the 70s to go to school in an environment that was fairly diverse.
What a major impact that had. I'm sure that you bring that into your leadership even today in terms of what you see on your campus and what you see around the nation.
Well, we try to. I mean, we look at, we have our own student equity plan on campus that we actually disaggregate data for different kinds of students. And what we know on our campus is that our men are lagging behind the women. So we've put together special programs to help men complete their programs. We know that student veterans have special needs. We know that the first generation and low-income students have special needs. So we can tailor our programs specifically to help those students based on what we know their actual characteristics are.
A real equity mindset there.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned going to the University of Texas at Austin, and you became a high school teacher. Is that right?
That's correct.
You got your teaching credential there?
My teaching credential, and taught high school government and history and economics.
How did you know you wanted to be a high school teacher at that time?
Well, I was a first-generation college student, and that was the exposure I had to professionals in the workplace. And so overwhelmingly, first-generation college students go into education because that's who they're exposed to. We even see that on our campus. Our students whose lives are impacted by our counselors, our students then want to go into and become college counselors.
Right.
That's where they see that the professional path for them. So I think it was natural for somebody like me who both of my parents were, my dad was an aircraft electrician, my mom did a variety of jobs, working in banks, working as a secretary, those kind of things. So that was my exposure, so it was a natural fit. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy education. I think that's a good way to have a positive impact on your community.
And a really good fit for you, I think.
It turned out pretty well. I enjoyed teaching high school. I did it for 5 years, and it was a lot of fun. And I still kind of miss those days. I got to teach a class at Hancock year before last, and that was a blast to kind of get back into that interactive. Things have changed a lot since I was in the classroom the last time. With if you ask a question, all the kids know it on the phone already. So
right. What was the class that you taught at Hancock?
I taught American government class.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's right. So you taught for 5 years, you said, high school,
Right.
and then moved into higher education. What was that path like, and what was that?
So I ended up moving to Utah, and I was working on my doctorate at the University of Utah when one of my professors came in as I was finishing up the classwork and said, "You ought to go take a look at this job at the legislature." And I went and talked to the people at the legislative analyst's office. I didn't have any idea what a legislative analyst was. I said, they told me that's who does the budget for the state. And I was, geez, I don't know anything about accounting either. I said, it's not accounting, it's research. And so I really got an introduction into organizational management from a big picture perspective. And you start to learn about how budgets impact the way that we do things in our areas. In fact, it's sort of cemented for me, I feel like our budget's our mission statement, right? We can write anything we want on our mission statement that we post on the website, but if you want to see what we're doing and what our values are,
Right.
take a look at our budget. Where are we spending our money? Are we spending our money to address equity issues, or are we not? And so we really make sure that the finances that we put towards our priorities match what we say we want to do.
Right.
And so in that role working for the legislature, I converted over to higher ed. I got a job working for the state system of higher education, and learned a lot about how the systems work. And then went to a college campus, a little campus in Price, Utah, called the College of Eastern Utah, that they had a lot of issues going on, and they sent me down there to work on it. And I ended up staying. So.
And what was your role there?
I started off as the acting vice president for finance, and we were being threatened. Our accreditation was being threatened because the finances had kind of gotten out of control. We brought all that back together and fixed the problems it took us about 14 months. It was a lot of team effort, and there's nothing like walking into an office where you're like, wow, you haven't done your financial statements, and how many accountants do we have on staff? And the answer was 0, right? So we were recruiting colleagues from other colleges to come in and help us, and spent a lot of time and effort. There was a lot of late nights with pizza in our offices getting all that fixed. But the college is doing well now, and it's a good tribute to all the work that the people did to get it back on track.
Well, and your leadership as well, and also trying to implement that mission of ensuring that the budget reflects your priorities back then there in that college at Utah. So paint us the picture then draw the line to Hancock College. It wasn't directly from Utah to here.
No, we it almost was. I have a very good friend who's from Santa Maria. He when we met, he was working for Western Governors University and introduced me to Santa Maria, and I kind of fell in love with the area. It was great, and I'd been actually on a couple of job interviews where they said, where do you see yourself being? And you can never really say where. I said, but what I know is I want to be at a college that's like colleges that I know. And I would always use Hancock as an example of this is a community that I think I understand and would be a great place to be. And then when the opportunity came, it was great. I was up in Livermore at the time. I was at Las Positas College. I'd actually gone from Utah to West Virginia and worked in the West Virginia system for a couple of years. And the Eastern time zone just didn't sit well with us. We wanted to get back west, and we're my wife is from Colorado, and my son was born in Utah, so we're Westerners, and so we got a chance to come back to Las Positas College in Livermore. It was a good experience right at the end of the recession. Very difficult times for California community colleges, and when the job opened up down here, it was like that's just too good to be true. And so I was fortunate to be able to come down here.
Well, I think the community is fortunate to have you too, so I think it's definitely reciprocal there.
That's nice of you to say.
And I think that there's a lot that you've shared today, Kevin, about your background that really impacts how you lead your school today, the college today, and some of those include the different states you've lived in, the different roles you've had, from being a high school teacher to working in politics to working in higher ed and finance. But something else that you said is that you are a first-generation college goer yourself and your family, and you also attended a community college before. So all of that combined, how does that impact how you lead your college today?
I think I have a different organizational style than maybe folks who grew up in with parents who, had sort of office jobs. I didn't have a role model or an example of what it means to go sit in meetings all day, which I'm actually okay with that because I hate sitting in meetings all day. So we take a very flat approach to how we do things. The idea that nobody talks to the college president is kind of silly, right? I mean, we're a community college, and I go and talk directly to staff sometimes, and rather than, in a big organization, sometimes that would never happen. The president would send a memo to the vice president, would send it to the dean, and it kind of goes down the chain. Well, that's we're a small organization. We don't need to be doing that. So we have a very flat organization, and we want people to, kind of step up and have solutions for themselves, right? Everybody's always, they've got great ideas that they want somebody else to do, and I think we're getting to a culture where people come in with an idea of things they can do for the students, and you see it across campus. We did a great welcome program. Every year when the students come to campus now, there are information tents out there, and counselors and staff and student ambassadors welcoming students to campus, helping them find their classes, explaining to them, oh, sorry, this class is in Lompoc, or sometimes in Lompoc saying, nope, this class is in Santa Maria, but then helping them get their schedule straightened out so they can go to class. All that was done just by faculty and staff saying, this is something we should do, and here's how we'll do it. And they just went out and did it. They didn't ask. They just said, we're going to go do this. It's the right thing. Then last year, we started the Hancock Hello program. When I say we, there's no we in that. It was staff in the student services building who said, what if we brought in all of our incoming freshmen and gave them and their parents a chance to see what college is about, ask some questions, and get ready. And they just did that on their own. And so, we end up with 400 or 500 students on campus the week before classes start. It's a fantastic way to kick off the year. And it's really because staff and faculty just stepped up and said, this is a great thing for students, and we're going to do it.
Well, it definitely takes a whole team. It takes an incredible leader, too, with that ability to be so, relationship-oriented, it seems like. I remember touring the college with you at some point. Been a couple years now, but touring with you, boy, I needed to have roller skates because we were going all around campus and saying hello to students and professors and everybody who's on the campus alike. I know you really like to get out there and build community, I think, and be out in the community. It seems like that's a really big priority for you to build your school.
When I came here, the trustees were really adamant that they wanted somebody who could restore the community relationship. And it wasn't that the college had intentionally withdrawn, but we'd gone through, the 4 or 5 years of budget cuts. So resources were limited on campus. Everybody was scrambling to kind of keep things afloat. President Ortiz had left, and you had an interim for a year who was trying to do 2 jobs. That's an impossible task. And so one of the things that fell by the wayside was that constant engagement with the community the college had been known for. So that was a really important thing for me to get back in, and it kind of fits my skill set. I'm a lot better at doing that than I am sitting in meetings. But it does mean, we eat a lot of chicken. We eat a lot of beef.
Barbecues.
We're at a lot of barbecues and a lot of auctions, and
as it should be,
as
right?
It should be. That's right. People used to ask me why I moved to Santa Maria, and I said I wasn't getting enough red meat in live auctions. So we have a great time, though. I mean, it's anytime you sort of, you're sitting at the house and like, oh, one more of these things, and then you realize, the good that we're doing for the community, and the fact that it's really not that great to complain that you're going out to eat a nice dinner in a nice spot with friends when you know that there are people who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And so my goal is to help us convert so that our students can get to that same spot, so that they can be part of those same events we're going to.
Well, that community building, community relationship building certainly is palpable when you go onto your campus, for sure. And even outside of the campus, your campus is expanding in a sense. Santa Ynez is an example. Santa Ynez Valley Center is something new. I believe it's pretty new in terms of a relationship with Hancock College. Can you tell us about that?
Well, the center's not new.
Okay.
The location is new.
Okay.
So we've had a center in Solvang for years, and it was in the old outlet mall that was down there.
Okay.
And Scott Corey of San Ynez High School District came to me and said, hey, what would you think about moving that adjacent to the campus? We're already doing a lot of concurrent enrollment in College Now classes there. What if we put it on the main right here on our campus? And we're like, that'd be great if you have space for us. So they provided space. We provided a little bit of resources to upgrade the classrooms. So we now have 2 standalone classrooms that you can actually enter each one of them separately. In the old one, you had to walk through one classroom to get to the other one. So we have a space for our staff member there full time. We have a space for counselors full time. So it's a great partnership. In fact, yesterday our staff went and delivered special San Ynez orange golf shirts to all of the staff there to kind of celebrate the San Ynez Center. So we're excited about the partnership, and I think the folks at the high school are as well.
I think they're definitely excited as well. So it moved from the Solvang area to San Ynez makes perfect sense. High school right to college. And you also are in Lompoc. There's a Lompoc facility. It's been there for a couple of years now. It's around safety. Can you tell us about that?
So our Lompoc Valley Center, we have an actually state-funded center there. So we get funds for the main campus there in Lompoc to teach our different classes. We offer several degree programs down there. But then behind that, we built we spent $40 million of bond money to build a state-of-the-art police and fire academy training center, and there's very few things like it anywhere in the United States. And the ability to train young firefighters and police officers is kind of a core community college mission. So we're excited by that. And if you look at how much we've spent, when you look at the total bond amount, and you start talking about where are you putting your money? Well, we've spent $40 million. That's about 30% of the entire bond allocation we spent so far just for fire and public safety. And then if you come back into our industrial technology building, there was another $20 million. The board has demonstrated that we're going to spend our money where our core programs are. So it's good to be supporting those programs in that way.
Absolutely. And students that complete that program, the one around emergency preparedness, fire preparedness, do you see some of the results? Are you seeing some of the students return to Santa Maria, stay in Lompoc? What do you see in terms of the graduates?
So we've had a hard time getting the actual number on this, but we know that more than half of all of the firefighters in Santa Barbara County went through our program.
Wow.
And it's probably higher than that, actually. The ambulance drivers went through our program. Almost all the police officers went through our program. The FBI, I'm going to say this wrong, but I call him the special agent in charge. That may not be his real title, but the head guy of the FBI here is a graduate of our program.
Wow.
So, all of those people went to our academy and were successful in getting into the field. And police is a little easier. If you get into the academy, you're usually sponsored by an agency. The firefighters, they have to come in. They get their certification, and they got to do a lot of volunteer and part-time and find jobs where they can until they can land with a full-time fire agency.
That's incredible. What an impact, truly. So let's go to the Hancock Promise. We started at the top of this segment and said, let's talk about that later on, and now we're here. So the Hancock Promise is something new. It's developed now, and it's ready for freshmen of college next fall. Tell us about that. Not everybody who's watching knows what it is.
Okay. Well, when I first got here, I got here four and a half years ago, and right after that, Cuesta announced that they had received this major gift that would fund a Promise program at Cuesta College, which means all of their students could go first year without paying registration fees at Cuesta College. And then 2 years ago, Santa Barbara City College rolled out that they were going to do 2 years fees plus books. And everybody was asking us, well, what are you going to do? Well, how are you going to get there? And my answer was, we can't do a Promise program until it serves every student and until it's sustainable. And that's really got to be the key, because there are Promise programs around the country where, only 20 students can apply for it, or only 300 students can. Well, that's not a Promise program, right? We want to be able to go to every single student in our service area and say, if you graduate from high school, we will provide you with X, whatever X is. Well, for us, we've now found the funds that X is a year free of tuition and fees, which includes their health fee and includes their course fees. So they won't have to, all they'll have to pay for their first year is their books and a parking pass if they want to drive a car onto campus. So that's going to be transformative for our community, because we can, prior to that, we were going to different campuses and we're like, well, here's how you do it. You can get the Board of Governors waiver and you can fill out the FAFSA form or the DREAM Act form. And there's all these steps you have to go through. Now we just tell the students, if you come to school, you register as a full-time student, we'll take care of the cost. You're good to go.
That is fantastic. What I love too, that now that Hancock is providing this Promise program, every high school student in our whole county, because of SBCC in the south and Hancock in the north, every high school student graduate has a place to go in terms of a community college for free for at least a year.
For at least a year.
For at least a year. And for Hancock, you know, the mission that you had in terms of it being sustainable is such an important promise that you've provided. Thank you for that.
Oh, sure.
And it's also very unique. You mentioned it's different from Cuestas, it's different from Santa Barbara City College, it's the Hancock way, and it actually starts with, I think, 5th grade students.
Right.
Can you tell us about the 4 phases?
So we're starting, we have a program now called Bulldog Bound. It's 5th through 8th grade, where we're actually doing outreach directly to those students to start building that college-going culture. So, you know, for our first generation students today, and especially if their parents are immigrants or have, you know, Santa Maria, 60% of the adults in Santa Maria don't have a high school diploma. So we need those parents to understand your kids can go to college, and the great part about that is they want to. They want their kids to go to college. So we're starting in 5th grade saying you can go. All you have to do is get out of high school and we got you, right? And so we start with that program. We've already had 2,000 5th grade students sign up to come on campus for tours and visits and to see what it's like to be on a college campus. Then once they get into high school, we're calling it the path to readiness. We're going to offer Get Focused, Stay Focused to those students so that they can so they can get ready for what college is like. We're going to do concurrent enrollment that we're already doing. All of those kind of things to let the students be ready for that promise year, which is, you know, be that first year free. And then we'll do the wraparound services that go with all that stuff to help them be successful in the second year. So all of that is going, we think, is a good pathway for students. And that's, you know, that's kind of the new idea in higher education, is to be more into a pathway. And this is certainly a pathway program that will help students be successful. Part of the reason we set it up as a pathway is we know that students who graduate from high school and immediately enroll in college are more likely to graduate. Students that immediately enroll in college and go 12 hours are even more likely to graduate. So we got to talk to our producer here, right? Make sure his daughter gets there, right?
Encourage those 12 units,
so,
right?
Yeah, and that's the goal is, you know, and think of the power of that. If a student says, I only want to take 6 hours, and we're like, well, great, that's going to cost you $275, but if you take 12 hours, it's free. So we're going to really hold those, you know, it's an investment in those students, but the students have to perform with that. So they're going to take 12 units, they're going to take an English class, they're going to take a math class. They're going to be ready to graduate, or they're going to be ready to transfer when they finish their second year. It's
such an intentionally designed program where it starts with the 5th grade and goes all the way through even the second year of college too. So we're so fortunate to have a community college like yours that really envisions supporting the community in this way. We're so appreciative.
Well, we're lucky. I mean, our county is so supportive of higher education. Our local communities here, our Rotary clubs and everybody, they're really supportive of what we're doing. Well, we have a gala to support the Promise this week. We've got 350 tickets sold for that already. It's and it's sold. Not, you know, we're not. There's some comp tickets, but there's not many.
Not
so
many,
everybody's
right.
buying and paying for their dinner, and we're going to raise quite a bit of money that'll directly support students.
And it really talks about that power of partnerships. You recently wrote an article around that power of partnerships, and so many different partnerships. One, again, is the supporters of the gala that you're having and the Promise program. Any other partnerships that you want to recognize as we're talking today?
Well, you know, I think if when you look at the gala, when you look at who the top sponsors are, and we can start with the Marion Hospital is a big sponsor, and then Era Energy has stepped up, and they're really big on the Bulldog Bound program. They're helping us with that and putting substantial resources behind it. The Murphy family that owns Presqu'île Winery, they're major sponsors and have been great contributors to the college, and they really understand the value of having a vibrant college in the community. So you start to look at those. You start talking about some and you leave some off. You know?
Right.
So in our gala, and we had an ad in the Santa Maria Sun this past week that showed everybody who was sponsoring, and there's I think 60 or 70 names of different companies at different levels in there. And then you look at, beyond that, you look at our Athletics Booster Club that does the Joe White Dinner, Community Bank of Santa Maria and Jim Glines and kind of head that up. And we get a lot of support from Home Motors and Kenyon Construction. All of those guys are super supporters that are doing great things for us. And then we have another support group through PCPA, the PCPA Foundation, and Royce Llewellyn and his wife, former president, Ann Foxworthy. They do a tremendous amount for our students that come into that drama program. And those are students, they come into an acting and technical theater program and they get jobs when they leave. It's fantastic.
It's incredible, and you're right. We couldn't begin to name all of them, but I know that in speaking with you, there are folks who contribute dollars, there's folks who contribute energy, folks who contribute time, and every single one of them are people and partners you appreciate, I know, very much. Hancock, like any of our other educational institutions, couldn't do what we need to do without the community partnership. Yeah. So appreciate that you're naming some, and excited about all of the others that really do contribute to Hancock College. We're about to wind down our time together. I can't believe it, but I have a burning question I just have to ask. I know you're here, there, and everywhere. You're constantly contributing to the community. How do you find balance and unwind?
I try to play golf on early in the morning on the weekend, so I can be done by noon. And we try to take a couple days here and there. I've never been one of those persons who does the 3-week vacations or anything, but we get out and about there. But it's a timely question because I probably could use a little bit of time. Our staff that have been working on the Promise program have just been working so diligently on making that happen, and so hopefully I'm picking up the slack in some other areas for them while they're making that happen, because it's a lot of work, and we have a lot of things going on at the college, and we have faculty, staff, and when I say staff, I mean our administrators too, who are really just working very hard to make sure that we're successful and that our focus is on changing the odds for our students.
Yes. We'll leave it right there, because what a great message to provide to the community. I mean, you really are focused on equity. You're focused on educating every student that comes to your campus, an adult that comes to your campus. You're outreaching to the community, bringing them in, and also going out, and you recognize the fact that it's not just you, it's the whole team. We really do appreciate your leadership. It's an incredible college, and you've done incredible things, and we look forward to what's next in terms of the Promise program. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks. It was good to be here.
Thank you. I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you so much for being with us today on this edition of Local Leaders.